the most important article. This is about outreach program to MSMEs. I have clubbed 3 articles, one from Press Information Bureau 2nd November, Economic Times editorial of 3rd November, Live Mint article of today, that is 6th November, and by clubbing these I am in fact presenting this article, and this is about MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises, or you can say these are tiny enterprises to small enterprises. That means micro, small and medium enterprises. And if you look at it, how they are facing problems in recent times, there are several problems faced by MSMEs in recent times. Of course, they have general problems. I am not going into those general problems, but if you look at the problems faced in recent times, first is with regard to demonetization. Subsequent to demonetization, there was a cash crunch. Because of cash crunch, MSMEs were badly affected, especially the tiny enterprises were badly affected. Second one is with the introduction of GST. What happened here? Introduction of GST resulted in the formalization of economy, and some of the micro enterprises which are not able to come into formalization of the economy, they are facing problems. Why they are facing problems? Because if they do not have GST number, very important aspect, if they do not have GST number, the big enterprises are not purchasing from them. Very important aspect. Why the MSMEs are facing because of GST? Here you see, if they are not able to register for GST, then the big firms are not purchasing from the small firms which do not have GST. Why? The reason is, if they purchase, they don't get input tax credit. So therefore, as the big firms do not get input tax credit, if they purchase from small enterprises which are not into the GST network. So here MSMEs are facing the problem because of this reason also. First one is demonetization. Second important aspect is they are facing the problems because of GST. Third most important aspect is banks are into problems. Banks are into problems because of high non-performing assets. So therefore, under these circumstances, banks are not showing interest for giving money to MSMEs. That is the third reason. Fourth reason is, in recent times, there is liquidity crunch when one looks at non-banking financial companies. So because of these 4 reasons, recent times MSMEs are facing the problems for the past 1-2 years. So specifically, one is demonetization, second is GST, third one is banks are not showing interest to lend to MSMEs, fourth one is liquidity crunch for non-banking financial companies. Because of these 4 reasons, now MSMEs are facing the problems. So here, critically examine whether the outreach program towards MSMEs can reinvigorate MSMEs. So initially I told the reasons for the problems for MSMEs, they have other reasons also. That means the problems faced by MSMEs, there are number of other problems. I will explain you at the end of this lecture, but I told these 4 problems, these 4 are being faced in recent times. That means during the past 1-2 years, right? Another question may be asked like this. Examine how the globalization affects MSMEs in developing countries. This is the most important aspect. Because of globalization, how the MSMEs are affected. So I in fact gave this question here, but this article does not answer this question. Only I have framed this question because it is important, but this article talks about the second question. The second question fully in fact you can answer by going through this article, right? And news report, the Prime Minister announced 12 gifts in view of Diwali to MSME sector. So they are in the form of easy and cheaper credit, relaxation in the labor laws, and these are part of the support and outreach program. This will continue for 100 days in 100 districts. And please do not forget, MSME sector comprises around 6.33 crore units. and it created 11 crore jobs. But the fundamental point to note is the average size is very, very less. That means average number of employees engaged by the MSME is very, very less. And the second problem is they are not able to scale up. That is another problem for MSMEs. Right, friends, let us look at the outreach program. There are 12 gifts in view of Diwali to the MSME sector, and the first one is access to credit. There are 3 gifts. If you look at access to credit, first one is a dedicated portal for sanctioning loans up to rupees 1 crore in 59 minutes. This is the first point. But it is not clear. What about collateral security? And what about the guarantee for debt servicing? That means if the loan is given, the MSME's ability to pay back, who will give the guarantee? All these things are not clear. So that's why I have given the comment at the bottom. Please go through the comment. The top one is with regard to the news item. The bottom one is with regard to the comment. And finally, I am going to club all the comments, and I would like to add some more comments at the end for the critical appraisal. So the first one is dedicated portal for sanctioning loans up to rupees 1 crore in 59 minutes will be operationalized. It is not clear about collateral security. With regard to debt servicing, it is not clear. The second point is all GST registered MSMEs, they will qualify for 2% interest subvention on fresh or incremental loans. So, if they take a fresh loan or if they take further loan, then 2% interest subsidy will be given by the central government. But the fundamental point here is banks are having high NPAs. Do the banks show interest or not? This is the fundamental point. One more aspect is the exporters, they will get higher interest subsidy. This is with your intention to promote exports. We are talking about access to credit. One more important aspect with regard to access to credit is all the big companies with turnover more than rupees 500 crore. If the turnover is more than rupees 500 crore, they have to be compulsorily registered with TREDS. What is this TREDS? TREDS is Trade Receivables E-Discounting System. What is the purpose? This picture explains very clearly. Let us take, for example, Reliance Industries Limited. It is purchasing some intermediate goods from this MSME. Very important. If Reliance Industries is purchasing goods from this MSME, then it is made compulsory. Very important. It is made compulsory for all the big companies above rupees 500 crore turnover to be compulsorily registered with the TREDS platform. What is the advantage? The advantage is here, if this MSME sells something to Reliance Industries, let us say this MSME sold rupees 1 crore worth of material to Reliance Industries. Previously, there is no tracking. Generally, the big companies delay the payment. They pay after 3 months, after 4 months, after 5 months, something like that. And the small companies are facing the cash related problems. And now, when Reliance Industries is registered with the TREDS platform, what happens? The TREDS platform here, banks are associated with this platform. That means here, through this platform, banks or financial institutions, they will pay certain percentage to the MSME, or you can say against the receivables from Reliance Industries. That means if Reliance Industries is required to pay rupees 1 crore, then this bank through this TREDS platform, because when the receivables are in fact registered in the TREDS platform, then the bank will give certain percentage of the receivables as loan. So therefore, Reliance Industries, if it is required to pay rupees 1 crore to MSME, out of it maybe 80% will be given as a loan by the bank. So therefore, here the cash related problems will be solved. That is one aspect. Second aspect is the big companies will have accountability and responsibility. So these two are the advantages of the TREDS platform. So therefore, it will enable entrepreneurs to access credit from banks based on the receivables. Suppose Reliance Industries, if it is required to pay this MSME rupees 1 crore, let them pay later on, it doesn't matter. Let Reliance Industries delay it for 2 months, 3 months, it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, the bank, because once it is registered in the TREDS platform, the bank will pay part of it. Maybe 60%, maybe 80%. So therefore, it will enhance the access to credit for MSMEs. This is the biggest advantage of TREDS platform. Right friends, the first one we discussed about access to credit. These are the important aspects when one looks at access to credit. But here big question mark is on whether banks will show interest or not in giving the loans. And what about collateral? What about debt servicing? All these are the questions when you look at access to credit. Second outreach is access to markets. These are all welcome steps in fact. If you look at access to markets, here public sector companies have been asked. That means public sector companies have to compulsorily procure 25% from MSMEs. Previously, it was 20%. Now it increased to 25%. It benefits MSMEs because the payments from public sector companies are prompt, not only that, and timely, right? At the same time, 3% is kept reserved for women entrepreneurs. So therefore, it is expected to give boost to women entrepreneurship. At the same time, all public sector undertakings of union government have to be compulsorily registered under government e-marketplace that facilitates e-procurement so as to ensure transparency. So therefore, it streamlines the procurement process. This is the important aspect. Right friends, out of this outreach program, the first one we have seen access to credit. The second one we have seen access to markets. Here these are all welcome steps. There is no critical comment here. In fact, if you look at the next one, technology upgradation, very, very important aspect. MSMEs, small and micro enterprises, they are not able to upgrade. And here, for the upgradation of technology, 20 hubs will be formed across the country and 100 spokes in the form of tool rooms will be established. Very, very important aspect. So, tool rooms, this is basically to promote technological upgradation, product design. In fact, these tool rooms will be useful for making the optimum product, or you can say through technology available, it can enhance the product design capability. But what is important is behavioral change from the micro enterprises. Second one is micro enterprises, they are engaging 1 or 2 people. They are not able to afford high-end equipments. That is another important aspect. And as they are not maintaining proper books and records, it is very difficult to get access to credit. So these are all the important aspects when you look at this point. So the fourth one, last one is ease of doing business. Very important. Here, factory inspections, that means this is to prevent the harassment by labor officials. Or you can say to reduce the harassment, at the same time to reduce corruption by the government officials. Here this decision is taken. What is this decision? This decision is factory inspections will be sanctioned through a computerized random allotment. You cannot go and inspect any factory whatever you want. And at the same time, the inspectors must upload the reports on the portal within 48 hours. And the inspectors have to account for why they went to the factory. Very, very important aspect. So, this is to reduce harassment. This is to reduce corruption, right? And simplification of the procedure. This is with a view to improve the ease of doing business on one side, and other side, it is to facilitate MSMEs. Here, MSMEs need to file just one annual return for compliance. That means to comply 8 labor laws and 10 central rules, only one annual return form is enough to simplify the procedure, to improve the ease of doing business, at the same time to reduce the costs for MSMEs. to reduce corruption, to reduce harassment, to improve ease of doing business, to reduce the costs for MSMEs, to simplify the procedures. For all these things, these are taken. The next one is to promote the share of MSMEs in the pharma sector. To promote the share of MSMEs in the pharma sector, clusters of pharma MSMEs will be formed. So here 70% of the cost in these clusters will be borne by the center. At the same time, an ordinance has been promulgated to simplify the levy of penalties for minor offences under Companies Act. So, for the violation of the smaller provisions of the Companies Act, they are no longer required to go to the courts. Only simplified procedure is there. Through simple procedures, they can correct the lapses. Then, an entrepreneur needs two clearances. One is environmental clearance and second one is consent to establish. And one important aspect is single consent would be suffice under air pollution and water pollution laws. This is the important aspect. So, simplification of the government procedures to reduce corruption, to reduce harassment, to improve ease of doing business. Keeping all these things in mind, the fourth aspect is designed. So, therefore, these four are the important aspects. Please don't forget. So, these are the 12 Diwali gifts given by the Prime Minister to the MSMEs. Right, friends, as usual at the end, critical appraisal. Here, can it reinvigorate MSMEs? Important aspect. Please go through 8 points. Right, here, more than 90% of the MSMEs operate in informal sector. This is the important aspect, and they largely dependent on credit from the money lenders at higher interest. This is the important point. One more aspect is, it is very difficult for the informal sector firms to get loans from the banks because of the reason they do not maintain proper records and documents. This is the important aspect. Then one more important aspect is, as most of the firms are very, very small, they are not in a position to adopt technology to improve productivity. And here, as we have already seen, due to the non-maintenance of records and documents, here they are not able to get formal finance from the banking system. And as they are not able to get formal finance from the banking system, it is very difficult to adopt technology. Not only that, most firms in the informal sector are unlikely to attract skilled labor. Because of the reason, as per 6th economic census, the enterprises on an average employed only just 2.24 people, around 2 employees on an average per enterprise. It is very difficult to attract skilled labor. At the same time, technological upgradation is also difficult. Look at the next point. Government intervention and direct lending. That means government is intervening and 59 minutes you have to give in principle approval. All these things, what happens? Proper credit appraisal may be missed because of government force. And because of this, higher NPAs in future is possible. Right? And if higher NPAs are there in the future, that could affect the flow of credit in the future. In future, the credit flow may be affected. Already, former Reserve Bank of India Governor Raghuram Rajan cautioned both the Mudra loans as well as Kisan credit cards are to be examined for potential credit risk. At the same time, CGT-MSE, all of you are familiar, this CGT-MSE, this is the credit guarantee scheme run by SIDBI. Please don't forget, it gives the guarantee when banks are giving loans to MSMEs. It gives guarantee. So, therefore, here this gives guarantee for micro and small enterprises when banks are giving loans to micro and small enterprises. So, here it is facing contingent liability. That means the liability, if the micro and small enterprise is failed to pay back to the bank, then the liability comes on CGT-MSE, or you can say on the government. So, therefore, contingent liability may increase on CGT-MSE. Then banks are already saddled with the NPAs, and any push by the government may further increase the risk. Right friends, these are the important aspects when one looks at can it reinvigorate MSMEs or not. And have a nice day, and at the same time Learning Space wishes each one of you a happy and prosperous Diwali. Thank you. Thanks a lot.